The following program is a real estate and mortgage show and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good evening and welcome to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts, Randy and Jackie Rodney, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board right now, send us an email. Our email address is yourhomeyourmoney101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Your Home, Your Money, Randy and Jackie Rodney.
Yes, Randy and Jackie, but Jackie is not here right this second. She's showing somebody some stuff. So she's in the house, but she's just not in the room at the moment. The real estate market has been quite fascinating. It's starting to hit home. We are communicating with a number of people who are in troubling situations that the numbers won't let them out of it. So what I mean by the numbers won't let them out of it is that if they were able to sell their house at the price it is that they wish to sell their house at, then they would be able to escape their situation. And they probably should have tried navigating that scenario even earlier, because every month prices have been coming down. Overall, what we're seeing is a marketplace that is struggling to keep up with transactions, but when it comes to average price, the average price has so much negative pressures on it that we're seeing a constant decline. Now, the Bank of Canada did lower the rates, so people were saying that this should help with the real estate market. But I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. If the real estate market in its current form originated out of 2021. So the people who are now, realizing what their new mortgage payments are going to be like, they were coming from the 2020, 2021 times when property values, 2020 it wasn't as bad, but 2021 and 2022, 2021 especially, pricing was a little more aggressive. Transactions were at an all-time high. Interest rates were at an all-time low. And now those people are looking at their mortgages and their mortgage payments, and they're saying there is no way that we can do this. And so, so they're trying to make a move with the marketplace. However, the marketplace has already made several downward moves, and the home sellers are not really prepared for that. So what's happening is basically power of sales are up 52%. So, it's a rather high number, but it was coming off of very low numbers. So this is why people aren't alarmed. But you should be alarmed. A 52% increase in power of sales is problematic. And for a number of reasons. Now, remember, we're early in the process. We called for next year to be the bad year for home sellers. Home buyers, right now, the market is starting to twist in your favor. You're able to hold out longer with properties. You're able to negotiate a little bit harder with the properties that aren't, that are overpriced, and then sitting and sitting and sitting, and then finally pricing right. But the market has passed them by because, one, the market's declining, and two, that there are, 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 homes that are actually selling, which means the other 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 homes are not selling. And this is, in essence, a big issue, because you finally decided to try to catch up with the marketplace as a seller that's in a little bit of trouble with their banks, let's say, or potentially trouble is right there on the cusp. And they're finally saying, okay, well, you know what, let me come down to that price that you told us 2 months ago. And those prices no longer exist. The prices are lower now. And they have to then try to come to grips with that. But it usually doesn't happen very quickly. And so the homeowners are, going to try, because, the old magic words that lead you to do something that's going to actually not be effective. You never know. The truth of the matter is that we do know. If you were to go and take your, 1987 Pinto wagon, and you try to sell that for $10,000, well, you never know, but you never sell it. So people are trying to, their sellers are sort of in a situation where they're really hoping that the market can outperform what its current expectations. And the problem with that is that the mindset within the industry is not a mindset of let's pay more. It's a mindset of let's wait. So if you've got your home up for sale and it's $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000, $200,000 over what the market will bear, the market just says, no, I'll wait for a home. The interest rates coupled with the price is too much money to play around and overpay. Even though you could argue that people are kind of overpaying now, regardless of the price declines that we've seen. There's a strong argument for that when you're talking about the cost of living. We know when we talk about replacement costs, what it would cost to replace that house, the pricing is fair. But when you're talking about the actual carrying cost, the quality of life that you have after you've dedicated 70% of your income to living, to owning a home or something like that, that's when it doesn't work out very well. So homeowners, you're going to need to be patient. There's a lot of reasons why you're going to need to be patient, but one of them is because you personally are not really in touch with what the market will give you today. The typical homeowner, it's natural. If I was selling my home right now, I'd be in the exact same situation. I want more for my home than what the market is willing to give at this point. And it's okay to have this as your way of thinking. The only biggest or the biggest issue that you have with it is that you have a ticking time bomb on the side, which is the bank that wants another $3,000 a month from you. And so, you pay them the extra $3,000 this month. You pay them the extra $3,000 next month. You do it the next month. You start depleting your savings, and you're saying, okay, well, let's look at my pricing because nobody was buying at that pricing. I'm 3 months in. Well, that pricing no longer exists. The new pricing is this, which is even worse. So you've lost money because you're paying, an extra $3,000 on your mortgage every month, and then you go and lose more money because the housing prices have continued to decline, and so your equity position is not as strong. And so now you may get to the point where you actually have to write a check to the lawyer in order to sell your home. And that is never a really good situation to be in. And what tends to happen is that homeowners tend to get really frustrated. They worked really hard to save their money and that, and now it's not like they did something necessarily wrong. The Bank of Canada, governor, everybody was pushing that they were going to keep rates low for a very long time. And, they wanted people to go out and help the economy. And people went out and made some decisions that when the Bank of Canada turned their back, basically, I think, turned their back on Canadians, because the reason why I believe that is just simply because when the Bank of Canada was performing quantitative easing and they were flooding the banks with settlement balances to the almost $4 billion, when they did this, they don't consider that printing money. But that money is pushed into the economy through the banks. And so the banks are living that money at full value, and the rest of us, as it comes out through the banks and circulates into the economy, it starts to dwindle down because more money goes into the economy. Basically, your inflation goes up, and which means that the money is kind of devalued. And that's what we were seeing, is that all this money pumping through the system, it begins to be devalued. The Bank of Canada actually blamed it on Canadians. They said, when Canadians were allowed out of their houses, they went and they bought all kinds of stuff, and that's what caused the inflation. It wasn't caused because you shut down businesses and then they had to open again. Their employees, weren't at work. They have to start back up everything and try to get a smooth running organization again from day one. It just wasn't that easy. And some employees didn't want to go back to work after they were sitting at home, getting served, whatever. They were like, you know what, why am I working so hard just to try to make a living? And they decided they didn't want to play that game. And then employees were short people. And then they had to pay extra money to get people. And, and it was just a vicious circle. During that vicious circle, by the way, Bank of Canada put out a memo telling businesses to not fall victim to that. Don't pay extra money. Don't give out any bonuses. We do not want to flood the economy with money like they did. And then the Bank of Canada gave everybody in their organization a bonus. So anyways, before I get off track, I thought that just wasn't really that cool. But what happened is a lot of Canadians got caught up in the way that the Bank of Canada was promoting our economy, promoting borrowing money, and with the caveat that they would not be changing interest rates anytime soon. And we all know that that turned out to not be true. As a matter of fact, we've never seen them raise interest rates at a pace that fast ever in the history of the Federal Reserve or the history of the Bank of Canada. That was a very unique, harsh move that I think I am absolutely shocked that nothing has transpired. Nothing has happened. Tiff Macklem still has his job. You know, imagine that you were Tiff Macklem and you were working for a company, in this case, Canada, the Bank of Canada, and every year, you know, at the end of the year, the money that the Bank of Canada makes gets turned over to the government, you know, to help pay bills and whatever. And the Bank of Canada usually makes between $1 billion, and during some good years, they were making more. Roughly around there, $2 billion was, I think, one of their highest. And so they're making this money and they turn it over to Canadians, and it helps to reduce, you know, some costs and that for Canadians, and you don't have to raise taxes as much and this and that. But then you come in, you decide that you're going to do this fancy maneuver called quantitative easing, the next thing you know, you've flooded the economy with so much money that inflation goes absolutely berserk. Like, you know, at the speed of light, it just goes berserk. And you then, you know, stop everything, try to correct the problem that you actually caused. And so you're, you know, you're trying to correct that problem. And then the next thing you know, the Bank of Canada is losing money. So the Bank of Canada for the last, and I'd have to go and check. I haven't really talked about this in a while because you're just not allowed to talk about it. When I spoke about it a few years ago, when it originally happened, from that day on, my YouTube channel hasn't grown one subscriber. Not one, you know, which was quite humorous. But so you know what happened there. But I was also warned. I have friends who are in the banking system and that, and they had warned me that this is not, you're not allowed to talk about it or talk about it in that way for sure. If you notice, the news never spoke about it. They did once, and then we never heard about it again. But the Bank of Canada continues to lose money. So, and people are, you know, I'm just wondering, like, how can you have an organization that's never lost money? You go, you do something fancy. Not only is the organization losing money, but so are Canadians. Canadians are stuck with the aftermath of the conditions, the environmental conditions of what you created. So this is a quantitative tightening process. So now Canadians are stuck with that, and lots of people are losing their homes, and things are bad. Things are very bad out there for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. And on top of that, the company that you're running is losing money and has never lost money in its inception, and you still have a job. I don't know what other company that would allow that, but because this is Canadians' money, it's not their money. It doesn't matter, right? We don't need to get rid of them. We don't need to whatever. You know, it's really kind of sad, to be honest with you. But so in a you know, another way to look at it is. During the that whole movement, when interest rates were dropped to about 0.25%, at least the overnight rate was with the Bank of Canada. During that time, that was when getting a mortgage was just so easy. The banks had so much money, they actually didn't really know what to do with it. And so they had, had all this extra money, and it's pumping from the Bank of Canada through the banks through settlement balances to Canadians through mortgages and things of that nature. And then what happens was that people started doing transactions on a pretty large scale. Like if we were to look back the years, it was a pretty large scale. So when we go back, let's say that 2018, there was 82,000 transactions. 2019, 94,000 transactions. 2020, 101, and 2021, 127. And just to put it in perspective, we're not even going to hit 70 this year. Transactions were really high. And so, why were they high? Because interest rates were very low. And so with the low interest rates, it was appetizing. Like there were clients that actually, had homes that if they were to sell their smaller home and buy a bigger home with the new interest rate, they would actually pay the same or less than their smaller home because they're taking advantage of the new interest rate that's out there. So that was sort of like enticing the real estate market to become active. On top of that, there was a really interesting coincidence that came in at probably the perfect storm time, where you had mothers, fathers not being allowed to go to work. They had to work from home. So mom and dad were working from home, and then Johnny and Susie, their kids, weren't allowed to go to school, so they're home too. So now everybody's home all day long, 24 hours a day, in a home where they were really only together a few hours before that, because, you got the work schedules, you got the school schedules, you got soccer and hockey, and you got these other schedules, and then you got dinner and you got this stuff. And so the time that you're actually there together wasn't anything like now, where you have mommy, daddy, and the kids all in the house from morning to evening, no break. You're not allowed to go outside almost. You're not even allowed to walk your dog. Well, you are, as an exaggeration. But you're not allowed to go for a walk yourself or go and play in the park. You're not allowed to do any of that stuff. So what happened is that people's houses felt small. Now the house that we had, that we were raising a loving family in and in going to work, now we need workspace so that when I'm on the phone and the kids are playing, it's not disturbing. Right. So then, and that was for, let's say, mom. And then for dad, it was another thing. He needed his own workspace. So now there was a great incentive to go out and buy a home that meets these new standards for the family. And remember, that was incentivized by an extremely low interest rate, where actually moving up could cost you relatively the same. And so these were the dynamics that we were faced with back then, and we're coming out of that now. So 5 years ago, when you did that, today, 5 years later, you're faced with a couple of issues. One, your mortgage needs to be renewed, and the interest rate is much higher, and the payment is much higher than you ever imagined that it would be when you originally bought the home. That's one. Two is that your work has asked you to come back in. Now, when you went and bought these homes where mommy had her place of work, daddy had his place of work, kids had their place of play, a bigger home that suited the family during those times. When you did that, you didn't really take into account driving time to work because you were working from home. But now work wants you to come back. So now driving time is really important. And I'm hearing stories of more than just driving time. You got flying time. They got to fly in and then get to work, stay here for the week, and then fly home for the weekend. Otherwise, they'll be let go. So we got all those dynamics coming where now to change the house, to possibly downsize so that you can have a payment that you can afford, that is a problem. That is problematic because the value of the house that you bought is not the same anymore. And the location where you need to go and work, it's just not easy. A lot of people are really hurting. And if that's your scenario out there, what I would say to you is honestly, get a full understanding of the value of your home now, right now, and start preparing yourself to get that home ready for sale for at the latest the spring. Because if the spring can hold, then that will be helpful. But it may not. Not with 51 or 52% more power of sales going on right now. What we're seeing right now is, for those of you who love to cook, you're going to make spaghetti. You put the water on, put the salt in there, a little bit of oil, whatever in the water. You're getting it up to temperature so you can put the spaghetti noodles in. And you see the little bubbles starting on the side, just the little ones. And now you know you're pretty much ready, because pretty soon it's going to be bubbling hot. And so you're ready to turn it down, put your noodles in, you're good to go. The problem is that the bubbling that we're seeing is the bubbling of 51 to 52% more power of sales. And why is that so devastating to the market? Well, there's this thing that realtors and appraisers and banks use to understand home values. And so there's two things specifically that you need to be concern yourself with as a home seller. One is the market trending. You see, if a buyer is going to buy your home today, closing in 90 days, if the market is trending downwards, if they put an aggressive price on that, it probably will not appraise in the 3 months for the price that they're willing to buy it. So even as a seller, you're thinking, oh, great, this person is kind of brain dead. They're going to way overpay for this property. Well, the fact is you're probably not going to close. So they look at time and the direction that the market is heading in, and they look at the other properties that have sold. The problem with 51% or 52% more power of sales, those properties, they're not showing their best. They're usually vacant. They're not staged. Sometimes the toilets are taped with a sign on them saying, do not use this, we've turned off the water. Sometimes there's no hydro in there and it's cold, or the lights are off and you can't really see it good at night. It does not show good. It does not show well. And when that happens, you get less money for it. So, the fact that the property is not showing as well and therefore sells for less, well, that's actually put a flag up in that neighborhood that this per square foot pricing may be the new pricing for the neighborhood. Now, it may not be, but there's a really good chance that it may be. And here is the essence of the problem. When you have a one-off, okay, a one-off you may be able to overlook. But when you have 52% increase in power of sales, it's no longer a one-off. They're boiling up all over the place, and they are going to set the market price. And they're going to set the market price lower, and buyers are going to accept that price because buyers right now are still not too happy with the variable between their interest rate and the price of the home, which equates to their carrying costs. They're still not that happy with that. It's just that they do realize that long term they've got to put down roots somewhere and then live life, because worst case scenarios, you pay off the mortgage and your life is good. And so, this bubbling of 52% more power of sales is definitely going to have a downward pressure on pricing. There's no doubt about it. That's why I say, if you are a home owner and you are looking to sell, you really want to understand the market right now and know that you're planning it for whenever you're planning it for. Let's say you're planning it for the spring. Know that in the spring, probably the prices will be less. Now, the spring is one of the best times per year. So, if you miss that spring market, it's going down 100% from there in almost any market, but especially in the marketplace that is coming, that is boiling. So let that be, hopefully that's a value to you home sellers that are out there that have someone telling you the real goods and not having any skin in the game with you. We're just telling you the raw truth. And, when you meet with your realtors and you meet with different people, they'll have some skin in the game because they want to get the listing. So they may sugarcoat the entire process. And unfortunately, gauging by the numbers that the Toronto Real Estate Board puts out, it's, if you are getting sugar-coated information today, you're going to hurt. And so when you have, let's say, 30,000 listings and only 5,000 sells, then that's 1 in 6. 1 in 6 homes. So right now we're around the 1 in 5 mark, but because the inventory is only 27,000 with 5,000 and change sold, so we're in the 1 in 5 range of homes that are selling. That means that 4 out of 5 homes are not selling, and if 4 out of 5 homes are not selling, then and you are not getting the straight goods, and you're being aggressively trying to get more money than what your home's worth for your own personal reasons. The buyers are trying to get things at less money. You're just going to end up being one of the 4 and 5 that don't sell. As a matter of fact, if you price it right, which is a low amount, which is what the home sellers don't want, there's still a good chance that you're going to be one of the 4 out of 5 that don't sell. And so in today's market, it's not enough to just, do the bare minimum. You really want to give the buyers an experience when they go through your home. I couldn't tell you more how important staging is, but staging means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And staging is, when I say staging, I do not mean decorating. I do not mean that, you make this look pretty and you put this picture here. That is not staging. That is decorating. And that is not what we're talking about. Decorating does kind of help, but that's not where the big money is. The big money, your biggest return on investment, is the staging process. And staging is the art of making things look bigger. And while they're making them look bigger, because that's the number one thing is to make it look bigger, and the number two thing is to make it look pretty. Whereas in decorating, they don't care about what size it looks. They'll put up dark curtains because it matches with the couch or the ambiance of the room and things of that nature. But in staging, you can't afford that, because when people buy real estate, they're buying size in many cases. Size and then condition and locations. That's what they're buying. Hey, sweetheart. So you know, that's what they're doing. But when it comes to staging starts off with light. You know, it's what is the light situation within the home? You know, is it, if it's dim, you can have the most beautiful kitchen in the world, but if the lighting is dim, it doesn't feel that great. The lighting has to be right. So then, you know, that means that those big, beautiful curtains that people go and pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to put in their homes, those are blocking the light. So they're not helping the situation. So stagers it's a very specific technique. And I've got friends and clients that don't believe that staging works. You know, it's kind of unfortunate because as a professional, we tell them the truth and they have their own beliefs. And I'm just curious how they could say that staging doesn't work. Here's the thing. New home builders, they want to save money, but they build a model home and they stage it. And why would they ever spend all that money to do that if they weren't going to, if it wasn't bringing them money? They wouldn't. They just wouldn't do it. And it's the same thing. Every single home that we get involved with, and the ones that stage, they have an easier time to sell, and they sell for more money, and they sell faster. And so the only caveat that I would give to you as sort of feedback is that if you're going to stage and you're going to overprice, you're wasting your money, because the overpricing is going to put you in the 4 to 5 categories, 4 out of the 5 homes that don't sell. And then regardless of how beautiful you staged it, the marketplace is going to reject your overpriced home, and you're going to be paying monthly for that staging to sit there without any results. So in this marketplace, it's not enough to just make it, to beautify it. And we know a few years ago, all you had to do was beautify it and you would get massive amounts of money. And even if you didn't beautify it, you'd sell. But today, you don't beautify it, the person who's buying it wants a huge discount. And if you do beautify it, the person who's buying it wants a deal. So, and that's where the savings is. Welcome to the show, babes.
I'm so sorry I'm
It's
late.
okay.
I got caught up with a client.
Yep. It's all good.
I'll go right into the emails, I guess.
Sure.
Gail, is Don Rickles on tonight? I think, is that Leon they mean?
Could
Leon,
be.
the lawyer, I think maybe.
No Don Rickles.
Monica says, Randy, how are you feeling these days?
I am feeling quite dandy.
Doing much better. Thank you so much, Monica, for asking. Ralph says, so why so many power sales?
Oh, because people can't afford to pay for their bills. That's what's going on. Maybe you're asking a different question. The other question is, why would they not be able to pay their bills? They're not able to pay their bills. And, I don't want to get too technical again, but again, it's that quantitative tightening process. I'm going to explain it like this. You have 100 jubes on the table. Everybody's rich. Everybody in the house is rich. They go to the table, they see 100 jubes. They grab a handful. They're chugging back jubes. They're sick of jubes. They're not eating them anymore. There's still like 60 of them on the table. Everybody's enjoying jubes. It's all good. You're jube rich. That was COVID when the banks pumped the $4 billion or $3 billion more dollars through the economy. And now they're in, and so that's the 100 jubes, call it 300 jubes, whatever. But now they're quantitative tightening. So they're taking that money back out of the system. So that money that was existing, that was floating around from the baker to the hydro company to the employees to the rent, that money was circulating around. That money has been taken out of circulation. So now there's not 100 jubes on the table. There's 10 jubes. Now the family of 4, everybody has to ration. Oh no, you're only allowed 2 each, and then we've got 2 left over, and we've got to draw straws for the rest. That's what's happening with money right now. And for those who are cash rich, those people are laughing, and they're actually kind of find it humorous that that people are in this situation. And the people who have the mortgages and things of that nature, they've got higher interest rates that they have to deal with. You have some problems that came up. For example, if you had a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, and it exceeded 65% of your equity, the banks had to call it. Their regulators said, no, you're not allowed to have home equity line of credits past 65% loan to value. So they pulled the rug from underneath. They're tightening the money supply, not allowing for there to be as much money floating around, and that just naturally hurts people. I guess you can look at it as musical chairs, where there was lots of chairs before, and now there's very little.
You know, it's funny because the person I was just talking to, she said during a pandemic, friends of theirs sold their townhouse that they had half paid off and bought a huge, overpaid for a house, way over. And, you know, she said to them, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, but we can afford it now. And she's like, what do you mean you can afford it now? She's like, do you think you can afford this? She said, do you realize that, you know, the interest rate you have right now is not going to be that? What are you going to do in 5 years when your term comes up and now you're paying 5 point whatever? And the husband, not her, but the ones that bought the big house, he worked for the bank. And he says, oh, no, the Bank of Canada said this, that's the way it is.
They did.
And now they're in trouble. You know, because, and it's funny because she said same thing. She had assistants buying a house. They're like, oh, but I can afford it now. And she's like, but really, can you? Are you thinking about 5 years down the road what's going to happen when you don't have 1% or a half a point interest rate? Have you looked at where they're going to be then? Because people felt very confident in what the Bank of Canada said.
Yeah, but who are we supposed to listen to?
I know, but I'm just saying that. But it's not fair that all of that happened, and now they're not out there helping anybody that they put in this situation with their, you know, half whatever you want to say, what they went around and talked, which was bull crap, and now people are homeless because of it. And because you know why? Because they lost their house. So by the time they lose their house or whatever, they got behind on their bills. Now their credit rating is not that good. And they can't even go anywhere and rent a house because nobody wants them now. So they're homeless.
It is a really weird
But they're not out there
scenario
helping anybody with that, right? This is where I have the problem, right? It's like they should do something. They need to help people here in Canada right now.
I do agree with you. But there are many people on the other side saying, no, you have to allow the market to adjust itself. You can't go and prop up certain parts of the market because those people, you know, did whatever they did. Mm-hmm. And I'm not as insensitive. I think that you know, there's many times that the government bails out big pharma, bails out the banks, bails
Bails
out
out other
GM,
countries.
bails out other countries, but bailing out their own citizens, that's an absolute no. Yeah, it's a little hard to take.
You know what I mean?
It is what it is, though.
But I get what you're saying. The other side too, I get that, but I don't know.
I do get it, but I don't agree with it. I don't like it.
Yeah. So, sorry, Shane says the problem. And what has this idiot Carney done to help anything here in Canada? Just what we're talking about. We are the only country in the world. Sorry. Wow, sorry about that. We are the only country in the world that has yet to make deals with Donald Trump on tariffs. Well, Donald Trump is the devil. We all know that, right? Carney gave over $1 trillion now in jobs, production, oil, gas to other countries. Companies leaving, GM, Mott's, Burlington Steel, Barrick Gold, just to name a few. So it all comes down to money. The folks buying houses, they're losing their jobs and they can't buy and they can't afford what they already have. Yes, Shane, yeah. So, and Tammy says, speaking of COVID, Health Canada has already started a new panic announcement that the new strain of COVID is here. The vaccines are now available. People, no vaccines and no mask. They do not work, from the Toronto Star. Frankincense COVID-19 variant is here. What Canadians need to know. Frankenstein, sorry. I don't know why I saw that. You know what I was thinking? The oil, frankincense, that's good for your skin. That's what I was reading that. That's what I was saying. Frankenstein. You know, I don't, like, what are they going to do now? Are they going to make people go and do this now?
The gig is up. The gig is up,
But
man.
they can't make people go and do these vaccines again, can they?
They just prove to us they can do whatever they want. Don't you remember you had truckers out there? Their bank accounts got shut down and all that stuff because they didn't want this whole vaccine thing. And then I don't quite understand how us Canadians are such marshmallows. Like I just don't understand that you go from women's rights, they get to say what they put in their bodies and all that, to nobody gets to say what they're putting in their bodies. Period. You're either going to put this in your body or you're not going to be allowed to go to a restaurant, you're not going to be allowed to go on vacation, you're not going to be allowed to do anything. So what happened to all those rights? Oh no, we abolish those rights now.
We decide when you get the rights.
And anybody who goes against us, like the truckers, what we're going to do is we're going to lock them up in jail, and and any doctors that speak out about what they think is wrong about what we're doing because of their real world experiences that they're experiencing, that no, this is what works, those guys have to shut up or they're going to lose their livelihood. And it was just a really weird time. Like, why would this even be acceptable to us? Why, we go out in the street and we protest for Palestine, but we don't protest for ourselves. And it's like, it's really kind of weird. Why is it that we allowed the government to have such such control over everything, and then they ruined everything? Like, a lot of people said, oh, well, they didn't know any better than... Yes, they did. They knew better. Quantitative easing is not new. They know the results of it. It didn't work when it was in Australia. It didn't work when it was in Japan. So why is it working when it was here? So, I don't know. Anyways, I'll let it go. I already started on that. I said my piece. I'm done.
Amy says, yes, hi, Jackie. Hi, Amy. Yes, it's all over the media. The new variant of COVID is here. The government is already pushing the new vaccine. Yeah, they're like little drug pushers, aren't they?
No, but I think it's okay for them to push it, to be honest with you. I think it's okay, but not make it mandatory. That was dumb. And you know what was dumber? The people, like, as a matter of fact, I have good friends and they hate having this conversation with me, but the people who turn around and say, oh, well, you know what, when you wear masks, it was helping. It wasn't helping anything. There was, I won't get down to it because It doesn't work, and it didn't work, and for a lot of reasons, because we don't even know how to handle the masks. Okay? And so just the fact of the way in which we handle the mask would spread more disease faster than anything. So that's one problem. The other stuff is they made up stuff about 6 feet social distancing in an airborne disease virus. That's just like illogical. You have one group of people standing in front of you. They're 6 feet in front of you. If they have it and it's airborne, it's there. So when you walk the 6 feet forward and they're another 6 feet forward, you're in it. So these things just didn't make sense. You go into the store and they've got it taped off one of the aisles or two of the aisles.
I don't think they knew how to handle it, so they
Yeah, but
just
still,
handle it however.
yeah, but why are you making up this crap?
Somebody made a lot of money from that vaccine.
So you tape up the aisles. You're not allowed to go down or up those aisles, and what? We saved lives? Well, is this for real? You go into Costco or shop and they have 12 urinals, 6 of them are taped off? Like, doesn't that increase your chances? It increases, because I had a 1 in 12 chance of using one where the guy had COVID. Now I got a 1 in 6 chance of using the one where the guy had COVID. I don't even get it. Like, maybe I don't understand. And so I'm okay with the government saying, hey, we got something that can help you through this process. You want to take it, but not that, no, shut everything down. You're not allowed to take, you have to take it. If you don't take it, you're enemy number one, and all these things. Pitting families against each other. You had families that wouldn't get together with other family members because they're not vaccinated. All this stupidness. And then the vaccine, what did the vaccine do? Okay, finally, you got 90% of Canadians to take it. What? All the people who took it, they're getting COVID and they're giving COVID just the same. Just the same. It didn't even, it was so illogical. And the thing I think that got me the most about that whole process was when they turned around and said, yeah, but if you have the shot and you get COVID, it won't be as severe. So now they come up with this new thing. It's not going to be as severe, because before it was, if you take it, you won't get COVID. Oh, this is the way to eradicate COVID. It didn't do any of that. So now, so we got to change the story. It's a moving target. And now we've landed on something, just like with the whole climate change. We finally landed on something. It used to be acid rain. It used to be a hole in the ozone. It used to be global warming. Then when all those things ended up failing, now it's climate change, which is like nice universal. And you can just say, everything's climate change. And the climate's been changing since the history of mankind. So they're always going to be right with this new title. And that gives them a reason to tax us to death, to do carbon tax, super carbon tax, all this stuff, so that they can support this climate change stuff. And hey, don't get me wrong. I think that it's really important to be a good steward of the earth. But that's not what this movement's about. It's not about any of that stuff. It's totally different if you think about it. So here we are. Okay, we're going to switch all our cars over to electric. You know the infrastructure that we need for that, right? What are we going to do with the batteries and all that stuff? Are we making the planet safer by doing that? No. But meanwhile, it's the big movement. I don't know. Why am I so cynical today? Let me stop. Let's move on to something. What time is it?
We got 6 minutes left.
Wow,
I'm trying to
6
get back
minutes.
to the email. Sorry, I was doing something.
Yeah. You got me all excited. I can't believe that I'm still hot about this COVID thing. I thought I let go.
No, you don't let go of
I
stuff.
thought I
that
let go of
easily.
that. But so the new COVID, guys, what I would say is, be careful, be responsible. If you're sick, get yourself to the hospital. And if talk to, like, if you have a naturopath and a doctor, talk to them about if maybe getting vaccinated is the right thing for you. Because for some people, it's the right thing to do. But for the whole population, for it to be mandatory, it was definitely not. That's definitely not good. And I don't know if you guys been hearing all the problems that are actually now coming out about that whole vaccine thing. Yeah. What do you got? Got any? Oh, you're
No.
texting people?
Sorry, everybody's sorry.
Okay,
You
so
know
there's no
me.
more email or
Can't-
what?
No more emails. No. I don't know. I'll say my last piece about COVID. I mean, people. Our daughter has a friend that is really sick because he got COVID, and then we got people that got sick from the vaccine. I mean, I
People who
don't.
died from the
Yeah,
vaccine.
people who died from COVID. I feel that it should have been people's choice because, but I get why it couldn't be because they're going. Oh well, they want to protect the people that want to be protected, but some people died from the vaccine because nobody really knew what was in it. Maybe it was some, we don't know what we were taking. We don't know if
It wasn't good for them.
So it's a tough one, right? I mean, it's a tough one.
But anytime the government gets the way that they were, to be honest, I think personally that when Justin Trudeau said those unacceptable views, I think that was when he sealed his fate and he was on his way out. Because those unacceptable views that he was talking about, I shared them. And I remember sitting there, he wouldn't go and talk to them. He wouldn't have open dialogue. It was like really strange to see that. And you know what, there were some things that I liked about Justin Trudeau, to be honest with you. When the Bank of Canada turned up the juice and started pumping the interest rate and really starting to bankrupt Canadians, Justin Trudeau said, no, don't let that happen. Banks, you guys hold back, change your amortization, do whatever, but don't be making everybody lose their homes. I thought that was wonderful, actually, and I don't know any other prime minister that would have done something like that.
But everybody is still losing their homes.
Well, yeah, he's not in power now. And I'm not saying that I want him in power or anything like that, but I'm saying, it's possible if he was, because he was considerate about those things. And I know some people didn't like it.
That was his last ditch.
No, I think that was part of his heart. Because most prime ministers, they're not even going to look at that. That's the economy. That's nothing to do. Whatever. They're just not even going to look at it. But he looked at it and he said, you know what? No, I don't want people losing their houses and stuff like that. And that's when people went into negative amortizations. We knew that was going to be a problem. And now that it's not being addressed, now everybody has to basically be on their own, float on their own. So it's going to be a little bit of a tough haul. So I'm not trying to beat up on Justin Trudeau. There was things that he did that I appreciated, and most of it I didn't appreciate, but some of it I did. And who's to say if I'm right or wrong anyways? Like, there's no way I'm going to be right on everything or anything or whatever. I'm just going to have my opinion. My opinion is mine, and that's it. But when it came to him saying that, those unacceptable views, I shared those unacceptable views. I thought the whole way that COVID was being handled was wrong. I had some very strong opinions about masks and masking and all that stuff. I saw it as unhealthy, not healthy. I saw it as contributing more problems. I saw it as the masks that we were using weren't even appropriate. Most of the masks, they were stopping you from spitting on people, not stopping you from spreading the disease, so the virus. So yeah, I had some contentious points with him as well, and some good. Yeah. So try not to be all negative.
Staying like this about any of that because.
So what do I got? 2 minutes. Sales. They're up 8.5%, which is pretty good, to be honest with you. The average price went down 4.7%. So sales went up 8.5%, and they weren't all that high. Just the last year was a really bad year, so sales were up, but the average price, even though last year was a bad year, average price still declined 4.7%. New listings are up 3.9%, and the active listings are up 18.9%. So when you got sales up 8%, but inventory up 18%. That's obviously a downward pressure on pricing. You've got the sales to new listing trend being 34.6%. So we are well in the buyer's range. We've got months of inventory at 4.6 and climbing. In some areas are 6, 7, 8. So many areas within the GTA are in the buyer's marketplace. The Durham is they're holding on tight, and I think it has a lot to do with our price range being one of the lowest in the GTA, and so it's still an attraction to people who are looking to do real estate, and its proximity to the core is actually very good. And the average days on market are up 21.4%, so that's insane. In other words, it's taken much longer to sell a home. That's the marketplace. This has been Your Home, Your Money, and Our Lives on realityradio101.com. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Your Home, Your Money with your hosts, Randy and Jackie Rodney, right here on Reality Radio 101.